Hey guys, welcome back to my channel Open to Code, and today I'll be starting a new series on Git and GitHub. So in this series, you'll get to know all about Git and GitHub, how to do Git commit, push pull request, merge any repository, how you can post your project on GitHub, how you can yourself contribute to open source and open source communities, and how do you do clone a repo and all these stuff. So let's get started from today's lecture, which is the introduction to Git and GitHub. So you'll get to learn today about what is Git, how Git came into an existence, what is version control system, what is GitHub, what Git do, and why do we require it. So yeah, let's get started and let's move to my computer screen. So we are at my computer screen, and before starting to know about Git and all about Git stuff, I feel that we should know certain terms which are required for moving forward. So some of these terms are like you should know about the directory. So those who don't know what is a directory is just a folder. We say directory in Linux, and in Windows we usually say it as a folder. Okay, so you should know about the terminal or the CLI, which is the command line interface, and its command. Okay, so you should know some of the commands like the cd, like mkdir. So cd is change directory, like which is to change the folder, and mkdir is to make folder, which is to make the directory. Okay, so you should also be having knowledge on what is repository. So basically repository is like a folder itself, where you can host or you can post all your project works. Okay, and so yeah, let's get started with the first part of the flowchart, which is the source code management. So basically, each and every IT company requires to maintain their source code. What is source code? It's just the program that you have written to run your software, your website, or application itself. Okay, so so for the source code management only, Git was introduced. And as we know, that Git is a version control system. You have heard from many developers who gives the meaning, or you can who explain Git as the version control system. So for that, we first have should have a knowledge on version control system. Yes, so in the theoretical knowledge, we'll get to know what is a version control system, as that it is the management of changes to the documents, computer programs, large websites, and other collection of information. To make it more easy, version control system is just to manage the documents or the updated programs or your websites. So to maintain all these source code in updated manner, we use the version control system. Okay, so now let's move forward. And version control system is basically divided into two, which is the centralized version control system and the decentralized version control system. uh, which one of these was first introduced? So basically, centralized version control system was first introduced, and due to its drawback, we then moved to the decentralized version control system, and which is right now we are applying. Okay, so I'll first of all zoom my page so that I can make it more clear to all of you. So I'm zooming in. Yeah, so we are at the centralized version control system, and basically what happens in this part of The case is that you have a central repository which you can feel it right now as the central folder. Okay, and you can like assume these four blocks to be the working folder where these developer would be working on their source code, and then they would be posting it to the central folder. Okay, I'll be talking more on repository, push, pull, commit afterwards, and as it's a introductory video, so let's keep it introductory for all those who don't know about what is repository, push, pull. Okay, so let's see what is centralized version control system with an example. Let's take an example, like a company is making a website like Flipkart. So they would be needing a registration page, a login page, a home page, and a payment page. Okay, so let's, for example, developer 1 is making the registration page, developer 2 is making the login page, developer 3 is making the home page, and developer 4 is making the payment page. Okay, so developer 1 makes the whole front end part and the back end part of the website, or sorry, of the registration page, and then mm, pushed it to the central working directory or central folder. Okay, then the developer 2 would be requiring the work of the what we say, the developer 1, because it would be needing the database of all those who have logged into the login page, because its front end should look the same as the back end, sorry, as the registration page. Okay, so that's why he will pull the source code uh, back, and then like work on it and update it and modify it and make the login page as well. Okay, then it will he will again push it to the central repository, through which the developer 3 who is making the home page will like again pull it and make some changes, and then again push it to the central repository. Then came the chance of the payment page, who which is done by the developer 4, and he again like make modification and make the payment change, and then push it to the uh, what we say, the central repository. Okay, so this is what happens in the central repository. The example of central repository is CVS. Okay, and as we all know, the example of decentralized version control system is the Git, or we also have one more decentralized version control system called Mercurial. You can see it here, which is this and this. Mercurial is not much more popular as Git is, uh, because Git is itself like derived from the Linux kernel, and as Linux is open source and we usually use Git and GitHub for open source work, so that's why Git is much more popular. Okay, so let's now go back to the centralized repository part, and where we have seen the whole how the centralized version control system works. Okay, so now let's come to the drawback of centralized version control system. So basically there were two drawbacks due to which we have to move towards this decentralized version control system. So the first drawback was that the decentralized repository always works on internet. Okay, so if there is no internet, how any developer will pull their code and then again push it if they have modified it, and how the other developer can like pull the updated code, because without the updation of code from developer 2, he cannot move forward and update the source code, right? So this was the first drawback. The second drawback was that like if for by any chance the central repository gets damaged or gets corrupted, or we can say gets disturbed by any chance, or the source code is not working in the central repository, so they don't have any local repository with them, right? So they don't have any source code with their local system, and that's why they would lose all the source code and whatever they have programmed for like about lot of time, right? So this was again drawback of the centralized repository, no, sorry, centralized version control system. So that is why we move towards the decentralized version control system. So now let's move towards the decentralized version control system part. So basically decentralized version control system uh, is like there is no central part. We have expanded and modified, you can say, the centralized version control system to the decentralized version control system, and we have got this as our flowchart. So what is this flowchart and what happens in this flowchart? Let's make a deep dive into it. Okay, so basically so basically what happens is, let's take the same example of the four developer making the same having the same work to do. Like the developer 1 is working on making a registration page, developer 2 was making the login page, developer 3 was working on the home page, and developer 4 was working on the payment page, right? So developer 1 has made his source code, and then it has like we can say updated it to the local repository. Okay, then from the local repository it is pushed to the central repository. So this is written wrong. It's or it's again the central repository only. Okay, so then the developer 2 will pull the developer 1 code in his local repository, or we can say the local environment, or we can say the local system, which is the computer itself. And then he will like come what we say update it to his part of code, and after updating he will again commit it to the local repository. He will then push the code to the central repository again. Okay, then we came to developer 4 who sorry, developer 3, who will again pull and work on the what he was working on. He's working on home system, yeah, like he then update in the home page, and after updating he will again commit it, then the same procedure will go through. So now how decentralized version control system is better than the centralized version control system is that because they have the local repository with them, so they always have the source code with them. In case the central repository gets damaged or anything happens to the central repository, they would always be having their part of source code with them. And if we see about the first drawback which they were having was about the internet issue. So this is also resolved by having their local repo for sure. Okay, so I feel that you would be having a brief knowledge about the central version control system and decentral version control system after like having known about what I have said here. Okay, so now let's see how Git what is the working architecture of Git and GitHub, how they both combine and work together. So before that, let's see that what happens in GitHub. So what is GitHub? So basically GitHub is a website to host your repository online. Okay, and how Git manages it. So basically you can assume that Git is the postman system to like make all the local repository go to the GitHub, making a centralized repository. So basically, um, you can say that GitHub controls the centralized repository. Centralized repository. Okay, and all the, like for example, this is developer 1 and this is developer 2. Okay, so we have developer 1 working on, like say, first part, and then he pushes his code to the centralized repository. So what is this is centralized repository. Centralized repository. Okay, then the developer 2 needs the code of the developer 1, so he will pull it to his local system. So you can make sure that it is the local system and it is also the local system. Okay, he will pull it, all the source code, and he will then modify it, like he will get this code and then he will modify it, sorry, he will modify it. Then again he will push the code back to the centralized repository. Okay, then it will again come to the GitHub. Then afterwards developer 1 will be needing it, so he will again pull it. Okay, and he will get an updated code, which is this one, and then he will again update it, then again push it, then he will the developer 2 will pull it, then he will push it, and all this work happens in a company itself, so that all the employees or the developers can work together and each have can like complete his part of work. So this is the introductory video of what is Git and what is GitHub. I feel that you must have till now have like knowledge about the GitHub and Git. Okay, so now basically, what are the advantages of Git? Let's come to it. Okay, so before that I would like to give all of you some facts about Git. So basically, Git was made by Linus Torvald. I feel that I have spelled it correct. Okay, so why Linus Torvald was using Git? So as we know that Linux is an free and open source kernel. So and it has many operating distributed operating systems, which are like for example Ubuntu. So so basically Linus made this for as an open source, so that he can manage all his repositories in it. Okay, so but he was using this version control before from another software called the Bitkeeper. Okay, but afterwards, this company refused to provide their services free, and they started asking money for their services. So Linus Torvald himself decided to make his version control system, and from it only he made this Git, and that is why it is very much known in the open source community. Okay, you must know that Linus Torvald was the one who made the Linux kernel, and his story is also one of, I think, the motivational story to learn how Linus Torvald created the Linux, which I think I have posted in my video of the Linux series. Okay, you can watch it there. And after that, let's come back to the advantages of the Git. Okay, so basically some of the advantages of Git are that it is free and open source for sure. Open source. The second advantage is that it is fast and small. So why is it fast? Because it's just like the command line interface. You get to know when we'll move to install Git and work on it. It looks like the terminal only, but yeah, it's not. It's like terminal. All the command also works in the uh, Git terminal only. So basically it's small. You can see the size, it's small. The second advantage is its security. So how is it secure? Because it uses the SHA-1 checksum concept, which is this that I have posted the image. So we don't need to like deep dive into what this algorithm is on which we have used to make Git as secure. And yeah, one more information is that Git is written in C language. Okay, Git is written wholly in C language, and that is what again makes it fast. Okay, and when we come to the SHA checksum concept, it is like related to the commit ID. So those who want to learn more on SHA one algorithm concept, they can like search on this. And then we can the again the next advantage is like it is very easy to like make a branch. So we can say it's easy branching is again one of the advantage of Git. So what is branching and how to do branching, we'll get to know when we'll like install Git and start working on it. And yeah, this is the end of the video. I hope that you have learned very much from it. And yeah, till then, bye bye.